Right now, total United States household debt has surged past a mind-boggling $18.5 trillion. Americans are more leveraged today than at any other point in history. But here is the truly wild part. Some people are using that exact same system to build massive wealth, while roughly 50% of Americans with a credit card are stuck carrying a balance from month to month, practically setting their hard-earned cash on fire. Hey friends, X-Money Lab here. Today, we are slicing through the financial noise to uncover the real difference between good debt and bad debt. Is taking on a massive loan actually a secret weapon to get ahead in life? Or is that whole distinction just a clever trap designed by the banks to keep you broke? The answer is going to completely change how you look at your wallet. 1. The classic debt myth. Society loves to put debt into two neat little boxes. On one side, you have the golden child, so-called good debt. Think student loans and mortgages. You are told these are investments in your future that magically build your net worth over time. The classic script says borrowing heavily for higher education is a guaranteed ticket to wealth. And sure, a bachelor degree has a median lifetime return on investment of $160,000. But here is the brutal reality check they leave out of the college brochures. Nearly half of master degree programs actually leave students financially worse off. Suddenly, that universally good debt looks a lot like a risky casino bet, right? Then, there is the evil twin, bad debt. This is the stuff that actively destroys your wealth, like credit cards and those wildly overpriced auto loans. As of mid-2026, the average credit card interest rate sits from 21.5% to 25%. That makes it one of the most painfully expensive forms of everyday borrowing on the planet. Yet, society has completely normalized this wealth destroyer. Let us look at Generation Z, for instance. Their average consumer debt reached about $34,328 in 2025, and it is not just a temporary speed bump. 61% of Americans with credit card debt have been stuck in that revolving hamster wheel for over a solid year. Let us do the math. If you hold just a $3,000 credit card balance at that current 25% rate, you are bleeding hundreds of dollars in interest per year. You are paying a massive premium just for the privilege of swiping plastic. The classic myth insists that good debt builds your life and bad debt ruins it. But when supposedly good student loans leave you broke, and bad credit cards are treated like normal extensions of our paychecks, the traditional labels start falling apart. 2. When good debt fails. Let us rip the band-aid right off. If the traditional rules of borrowing were actually foolproof, every single person holding a university diploma and a 30-year mortgage would be sailing a yacht in the Mediterranean right now. But they are not. Instead, millions of people who followed the exact blueprint for success are lying awake at 2 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, wondering how they did everything right and still ended up completely broke. That is the fatal flaw in the system. We have been conditioned to blindly trust labels. We slap the word good onto a loan and suddenly, all critical thinking goes straight out the window. We treat borrowing like a magical wealth-building ritual instead of a raw, mathematical transaction. Look at what is happening with education right now. Generation Z is stepping right into this beautifully disguised bear trap. Sure, they currently hold the lowest average student loan debt at roughly $21,670 per person. But here is the kicker. They represent a massive 35.2% of all student borrowers out there. That is an entire generation signing their names on the dotted line, taking on decades of financial baggage before their prefrontal cortex has even finished developing. They are doing it because society promised them it was inherently good debt. But debt does not care about your hopes, your dreams, or the prestige of your university. If you borrow 20 grand to get a degree in a field with zero market demand, that loan does not magically appreciate in value. It becomes a heavy financial anchor tied directly to your ankle. You are paying interest on an asset, your education, that is failing to generate any actual cash flow. That is not an investment. That is a luxury purchase financed at a massive premium, and it will aggressively eat away at your future net worth. Now, let us talk about the holy grail of good debt. The American dream itself. The mortgage. For generations, financial gurus have preached that buying a home is the ultimate safe haven for your money. Renting is throwing money away, they say, so you should stretch your budget to buy the biggest house possible. This is exactly where the label of good debt becomes incredibly dangerous. Yes, real estate generally appreciates over time. But a house is not just a magical piggy bank that grows while you sleep. It is a highly illiquid asset that demands constant feeding. When you stretch your debt-to-income ratio to the absolute limit just to get the keys, you are not building wealth. You are over-leveraging yourself into a very pretty, very expensive cage. People look at the monthly payment and ignore absolutely everything else. They forget the property taxes that historically only go up. They ignore the homeowner's insurance, the inevitable roof repairs, the busted water heaters, and the sheer amount of interest paid over a 30-year timeline. In the first decade of a standard 30-year mortgage, the vast majority of your monthly payment is not even buying you equity in the property. It is going straight into the deep pockets of the bank as pure interest. If your massive mortgage payment prevents you from investing in the stock market, starting a business, or even building a basic emergency fund, that good debt is actively destroying your financial flexibility. You become house poor, living in a $500,000 box but unable to afford a decent steak on a Friday night. Do you see the pattern here? The failure happens the exact moment you stop doing the math and start trusting the marketing. Banks absolutely love the concept of good debt because it makes you comfortable with owing them money. It removes the natural fear of leverage. Leverage is simply a financial tool. Think of it like a chainsaw. In the hands of a skilled professional, it is an incredibly efficient tool for cutting down a forest. In the hands of a blindfolded amateur, it is a one-way ticket to the emergency room. Debt is only good if the asset you purchase with it puts more money into your pocket than the debt takes out. It is exactly that simple. If a loan does not increase your earning potential or generate positive cash flow, it is a liability, regardless of what society calls it. The fatal flaw in the traditional model is assuming the vehicle itself is the investment. A degree is just a piece of paper. A house is just wood and concrete. Their real value comes entirely from how you utilize them in the real world. When you borrow blindly, banking on the vague hope that things will work out simply because the debt is supposedly good, you are gambling with your entire financial future. And in this casino, the bank always wins the bet. So, before you sign away the next 30 years of your life, you need to strip away the friendly labels. Stop asking if a debt is generally good or bad, and start asking the only mathematical question that actually matters. Is this debt going to pay me, or am I going to pay for it for the rest of my life? 3. The final verdict. Stop calling it good debt and bad debt. Throw those two phrases completely out the window, lock the window, and throw away the key. The entire vocabulary of good versus bad is a psychological trap designed by lenders to keep you docile. When you label a loan as good, your brain shuts off its risk assessment center. You stop running the numbers and start running on blind faith. The harsh reality is that the distinction between good and bad debt does not matter anymore. It is obsolete, and clinging to it is exactly what keeps the middle class trapped in a cycle of endless payments. We need a new framework. From this second forward, we are replacing those outdated labels with two completely different words: leverage and liability. That is it. That is the only lens you should ever look through when a bank offers you money. How do you tell the difference? It comes down to one absolutely ruthless mathematical equation. Is the net return on investment greater than the total cost of borrowing? If the answer is yes, it is leverage. If the answer is no, it is a liability. There is no gray area, no emotional justification, and no exceptions for what society deems a worthy cause. Let us test this new framework with cold, hard data. Society universally praises higher education as the ultimate good debt. But look at the actual numbers. While a standard bachelor's degree has a median lifetime return on investment of roughly $160,000, advancing to the next level is a massive gamble. Statistically, nearly half of all master's degree programs leave students financially worse off than if they had never enrolled in the first place. You heard that right. Half. People are taking on tens of thousands of dollars in high-interest loans for prestige, only to graduate into jobs that barely pay enough to cover the monthly interest. That is not good debt. That is a textbook liability wearing a cap and gown. Now, apply that same ruthless math to the plastic in your wallet. As of mid-2026, the average credit card interest rate sits around 21.5 to 25%. This makes it one of the most brutally expensive forms of common debt on the planet. Let me put that into perspective. To safely turn credit card debt into positive leverage, you would need to invest that borrowed money into an asset guaranteed to generate a 26% annual return year after year just to break even. Spoiler alert, unless you have a time machine, that risk-free asset does not exist. That is why credit card debt is almost always a radioactive liability. It bleeds your net worth dry at 0.25% every single day. Leverage is nothing more than a financial magnifying glass. It takes whatever financial direction you are heading in and multiplies the speed by 10. If you use someone else's money to buy cash-flowing assets, real estate that pays you rent, or equipment that doubles your business output, debt magnifies your wealth. But if you use that exact same tool to finance a lifestyle you cannot afford, a degree with no market demand, or a house that eats up 60% of your paycheck, it magnifies your ruin. The math does not have feelings. It just multiplies whatever you give it. So, here is the final verdict. Debt is not evil, and it is certainly not a magic wand. It is a highly volatile chemical compound. Handled by a professional who calculates the exact ratios, it fuels rockets. Handled blindly by an amateur, it blows up the laboratory. Before you sign any paperwork, forget the marketing. Strip away the friendly labels. Sit down with a calculator and figure out exactly who is getting rich off this transaction. If it is not you, walk away. Stay sharp, do the math, and stop letting the banks dictate your financial future. If this video helps you slice through the financial noise, hit that like button, subscribe to X Money Lab, and I will catch you in the next one. Class dismissed.